Woo!
Hey everybody, Jim Sammons here. Kayak Fishing Show live, brought to you by Ballast Point Brewing Company, as well as Seagar and all those other great sponsors you see scrolling across the bottom. They're the ones who've been able to keep us on the air for the last 11 years. And without them, you know, I'd be just sitting at home like I am right now. I don't know. So I am really excited here, you know, to be doing these airings of our past episodes, you know, kind of picking out some of the best ones. Again, if you're joining us for the first time on Tuesdays, we're kind of doing the more current episodes, basically from season 5 through 11. So, and then on Thursdays, we're doing our really old episodes, which are basically the Ocean Kayak years. So Tuesdays, Jackson Kayak years, Thursdays, Ocean Kayak years. So if you want to view older episodes of our show or any of the episodes, because for the most part, nobody's been able to watch our shows other than on the World Fishing Network or the Sportsman's Channel. So now this is our first time we've actually aired any of our episodes online. And so, you know, I appreciate those of you who are joining us and watching these episodes with us and getting some of these behind the scenes, you know, questions and answers and all that, and just kind of maybe some backstories. You know, speaking, you know, this photo right behind me is from the episode we're airing today from Puerto Rico. With that said, my guest on this episode's our fishing guests were Luther Cyphers from Yakattack and Joe Pullian from Jackson Kayak. Our guide on the trip was our good friend Omar Orraca, and he is our behind the scenes guest today. So with no further ado, Omar, my good friend, how are you, man?
How are you, Jim? Nice to see you, man.
You too. You too. It's you know, we've had a chance to chat a little bit beforehand and just kind of reliving some of the stories and you know, how it came about that we got to come fish with you. So for people who don't know, this is our second trip. This episode is our second trip to Puerto Rico. Our first trip was pretty brutal. And the cool thing was what Omar's really honest. He's like, okay, this is going on. We're going to schedule the trip for the best time of year so you guys can have the best episode. And we got there and I don't know, there was like a plankton bloom or something in the estuary, right?
I mean, the day before I had a charter that it was just awesome. It went great. In the morning, we caught six fish, 6 tarpon over 60, 70 pound, all of them. I think over the biggest one about 110, something like that. I mean, it just went well. Stupid fish, you know, things are just line up just to do perfect. So, I mean, I literally, I met you and I was so comfortable with everything. I thought that we were just going to nail that show on the first day, you know, I mean, all these perfect deal that you think, and all of a sudden we just say, okay, we'll see you tomorrow, and went to bed and it was raining, and it was 2 o'clock and it was raining, and it was 4 o'clock and it was still raining. I mean, it was raining hard, not normal for our island. So all of a sudden I start to worry about it, and then we start to find out the consequence the next day. These fish just all of a sudden totally changed from feeding from perch to floating small flounders. I mean, backcountry flounders that are not normal, and it just flipped everything out. It was not that we didn't saw fish, we saw plenty of fish, but it was very tough. And so that was the way we spent, you know, our first 2 days. And basically, I think that we caught a small fish, and it was kind of a handout or something, right?
Yeah, Jeff Herman got one, and I don't remember which day it was on. But like you said, we were seeing fish rolling, but man, we couldn't. Nothing we were throwing at them, whether it was live bait, dead bait, anything.
No, we try everything.
Anything.
and on every depth. And I mean, we anchor shallow water, deep water in the lagoon. There's some, I mean, just for our viewers understand, our lagoon was have some areas that are dredged. So this makes this a perfect spot where places can be up to 30 feet deep right in the lagoons, 55 feet deep right in the backcountry lagoon. So these fish can stay there. Since the water temperature changes, it gets hotter, they can go deeper, etc. So we were looking for these fish wherever the depth sounder were marking, you know, and I mean, everywhere, and there were no luck.
Yeah, it was so tough, but we believed in you. We believed you. And then finally, literally, we're talking, you know, 9th inning, 2 outs, you know, 4th quarter, no time left. And I got that fish. And I mean, the elation of all of us, the relief from all of us when I finally got that fish, and it put on a great show for us, jumped all over the place, took a huge dump all over me, all over the kayak. It was hilarious. But the thing was, we had so much fun fishing with you, and we believed in you and your fishery. So you were so confident in this fishery. We knew we had to come back. And
Jim, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I must say that a big part of all this chemistry, you know, was your staff. I mean, Will, your guest. I mean, everybody were just so understandable, so sporty. You know, that's very important. That's what's going to make a guy just forget about the stress and work through the options that the area can provide. So literally, you guys, even on the toughest situation that it can happen to a guy while you're filming a show, and having great people that add a lot more stress on it, because you just want these great people, great sportsmen, you know, to have the best that your area can provide. And then you guys made it so comfortable after all that I just need to bring that up, you know, because it really makes everything a lot more smooth, you know.
I appreciate that. And like I said, working with Will and the guests we've had, Jeff on that episode, and then, like you said, Luther and Joe on this one. You know, we're all fishermen, so we understand. And I'm a guide, so I understand the stress of being a guide and not getting people on fish when, you know, the nature's not cooperating. But, you know, fishing's fishing. You know, you're not going to get them every time. But as I was saying, we were so confident. And it just so happened the next year, one of my shoots fell through. And I called you and said, we want to give it another shot. My other shoot fell through. And you said, come on, let's go. And it was so worth it. This was such a good shoot. So much fun with the guys. So with no further ado, there's a couple comments here really quick. Let me take a look. Bonnie Hill says, hello. Hey, Bonnie. Hey, thanks for joining us. Serge, as always, joining us from up in Canada, up in Ottawa. Thank you so much. And Wade King tuning in from the COVID jail in Dakota. How you doing, man? So, yeah, you know, so again, if people have questions about Puerto Rico, and I want to touch on that a little bit too, the struggles that Puerto Rico has gone through, but I really want to get this episode rolling. I need to do share my screen again because I had swapped over to sharing that. Make sure I share the audio, which I always forget to do. So with no further ado, let's get this episode of Puerto Rico Part 1. Show, we're making a return trip to Puerto Rico. We're visiting the Tarpon's Nest, and we're fishing with our good friend Omar Orraca from Caribbean Outfitters. We brought along Joe Pullian from Jackson Kayak and Luther Cyphers from Yakattack, and we are having a ball. You can sing along if you want.
How do you know I love it?
And for those of people that are watching on our YouTube channel, the highlight video on our YouTube channel was shot during this episode shoot. So it's just a lot of cool slow motion stuff, and it was a really fun thing to shoot.
Jackson Kayak's Kayak Fishing Show is brought to you by Jackson Kayak, one family, many waters. Body Glove, featuring the new 3T Barefoot Water Shoe. Shark Shield, the world's only proven and tested shark deterrent technology. DeLorme InReach Explorer. Stay safe and connected anywhere on Earth. Torqeedo, makers of the lightweight 403 kayak motor. And Hook One, everything you need to get out there and hook one. This week on Jackson Kayak's Kayak Fishing Show, Jim is joined by Luther Cyphers and Joe Pullian in Puerto Rico with Caribbean Outfitters.
This is our second trip to Puerto Rico. And
man, I need a haircut.
Show, you know, the first time we came here, the fishing was a little bit tough. But we came back for two reasons. We came back because we wanted to fish with Omar Orraca again. Just such a high energy, enjoyable, cool guy to hang out with, and super knowledgeable of this fishery. We also came back because he made us promises. He told us that last trip was not the norm. We had a weird situation, a weather change, a water change that just threw everything into a tizzy, and the fish just didn't chew like he knew that they could. He promised us that you could get better fishing here than what we had seen the last time. And because we loved fishing with the guys so much, even though the fishing was bad, we had to come back. We had to see if his words were true.
The lagoons of Puerto Rico hold hundreds of hungry tarpon, and Captain Omar Orraca is the guy that knows how to catch them.
That's that rod you tried to steal from me.
When you come and try to catch a big tarpon on a kayak, it's not about numbers. It's about a quality catch. It's about an experience where you're going to get in contact directly with nature because you have no engine, no motor. You're straight in the water. When that fish jumps, it literally sometimes jumps 6 feet out of the water, so you have to look up.
Omar is an incredible guide. He struck me. I'm a pretty analytical, technical kind of guy, and I love to hear Omar explain things. Part of the last day, the day before the last day, we were all just kind of there by the boat, soaking some baits, and Omar just talked about some of the things with tarpon in the area and all that kind of stuff. He knows his stuff like I think few guides do, even in their home waters. I mean, he's just an incredibly, intelligent and skilled guide.
The guys are staying at the luxurious Tarpon's Nest Lodge, a boutique hotel specifically suited to the needs of anglers seeking adventure with all the comforts of home.
Pay no attention to this part.
This was we're staying at the Tarpon's Nest Lodge. No. It is a quaint little hotel /
It was a cool
lodge.
Little place.
It is.
There's a small pool. It's right on the water. It's right near the fishing grounds. You literally get your kayak
designed.
And you can paddle out a mile, half a mile. We're seeing tarpon rolling right out in front. Such a cool little place
out in the real life Puerto Rico and right on the water. It's 10 minutes from the airport. Really super nice accommodations, great views. The dock is right there and just couldn't be any better. You get off the water, you're hot, you're sweaty. There's a pool waiting for you, good food.
There you go.
Just couldn't be any
Look
better.
at that hair.
Yeah, it was
My
incredible
gosh.
from day one. I mean, right out the gate, the fish were rolling. We started catching fish right away, and that pretty much didn't let up.
This was a cool trip because we caught fish in every size.
Yeah.
When we come back, the adventure kicks off with a bang, and Luther brings the fish mojo.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, he's close now.
The Kayak Fishing Show is brought to you in part by Jackson Kayak, one family, many waters. Learn more at jacksonkayak.com.
So with that, we'll take a look. There was a couple more comments on here. Liam Young saying hello, watching on our YouTube channel, Kayak Fishing Tales. Roderick is saying hello from Houston. Thanks for joining us, Roderick. Dave Massengill watching from Yucaipa. Again, thanks for always watching, Dave. I really appreciate it. Roderick actually has a question maybe you can help him with. Where can he buy or rent a kayak in San Juan, Omar?
My number, 787-671-1469.
Yeah, because you still have the
Absolutely.
the kayaks that we brought, right?
Of course, yeah.
Very, very cool. I forgot about that.
No,
I was
no,
even
no,
thinking.
No, they're there. You
Don Winger, hi, Jim, from your Pueblo, Colorado fan club. The interesting story with these guys. Why are we not on the screen? There we go. I got a message from Don and saying that he has a buddy that he thinks I'm related to. And his buddy was adopted. So they didn't know his backstory. And it's like, but he was adopted from like Northern California or something. Anyways, it was kind of funny. I was like, what was my dad up to? Richard Martin, Shark Shield. That's called a buddy kayaker that can't keep up with you. Oh, I gotcha. I wasn't following that, Richard. Yes, a shark shield is a guy who paddles slow, and you can. What is it? You don't have to paddle faster than the shark. You just got to paddle faster than your buddy.
Trust me, they work.
the shark. Oh, totally forgot. Okay, I got to tell this story really quick. So, I think it was was it on this trip or the first trip?
It wasn't the first trip. We were actually at the reef.
So we went offshore, and I had my shark shield with me. And I was trying to explain to Omar how it worked. And he wasn't quite understanding how this thing works. And the way it sends out an electrical pulse that affects the ampullae of Lorenzini on a shark. If it's out of the water and dry, it's fine. But Omar was trying to figure this thing out and brought it up to his lips.
Like a battery.
And it zapped him on the mouth. Oh, we all just about died. Oh my God, I totally forgot about that.
We got a couple stories.
Oh my gosh.
From bogus to power shop.
Oh, we're not talking about bogus on this one. That's a story for another show.
Oh, definitely.
Oh my goodness. All right, well, let's bring this thing back up and get this episode going again. There we go.
The Kayak Fishing Show is brought to you in part by Shark Shield, makers of the Freedom 7, a compact, versatile, and lightweight personal shark deterrent system. Welcome back. This week, Jim Sammons is in Puerto Rico, fishing with Omar Orraca from Caribbean Outfitters, on the hunt for big tarpon in the lagoons of San Juan.
We came up around this corner and saw all these birds working, fish boiling. Hopefully we're going to put a bait to work.
That's one big characteristic of us.
So the first day of this trip was honestly better than the first day, second day, third day, fourth day of our first trip. We actually had some fish rolling. We had some bites. We had missed fish. We had missed fish. We had missed fish. It was Joe and I fishing, and just things weren't quite going. But I mean, we had action, but it was not happening. And it was just Joe and I fishing. The next day, Luther Cyphers from Yakattack shows up, and he brings us a little gift.
Gosh, I missed that.
You can see that. And we called it the Tarpon Mojo.
I actually still don't have that.
Come here, open your mouth.
It's hanging up in my office.
Got it. Of course,
That changed the whole game, man.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, so, my goal coming out here, I've never caught a tarpon, so I just wanted to catch a tarpon, and it didn't matter to me what size or anything. I just wanted to cross it off the list. And the first fish, Omar affectionately referred to as a sardine. It was about 4 or 5 pounds, little tiny guy. But I was ecstatic. It was great to finally have it, have a tarpon landed, and it just got better and better from there.
Fish are right there. Got fish all over. Right now we're in an area called Laguna Los Corosos. Got Jim approaching a nice school of tarpon. I mean, there's a lot of them that were busting on the surface. These are small fish. They're not huge. They're anywhere between 15 to 40 pounds, but they sure are in good numbers right now. Jim's going to just approach them. We can just spot it hooking up pretty quick.
And you start seeing, like off in the distance, you start seeing the birds start to build up. And then you start seeing them hitting the water. There's something going on, and it may be from a long way away, but you can see birds from a really long way when you're out, clear day. And so you're always scanning it in. Just that anticipation builds up that something's going to happen.
That's just a fun sized tarpon right there.
Oh, they're great, man. Jump a lot.
Here in Puerto Rico, we've had the opportunity to have 3 different Jackson kayaks available to us. We have the Cuda, the Big Rig, and now, of course, the Kraken.
The Kraken.
They all are so good at different things and versatile. I've spent a good amount of my time in my new boat, the Kraken. Great for when we were paddling offshore and doing some long distance stuff. When the wind came up here, it's just such an excellent paddling boat. A little bit lower, actually a little easier to deal with the big fish on. So I love that new Kraken.
For me, certainly the Kraken. I like the other 2 boats that we had, but the Kraken is a true paddler's boat. And I've been making and paddling kayaks for well over 40 years. So a boat that is very responsive, that I can make go where it wants to go. It's fast. It's got plenty of stability. It's got great secondary stability, so I can lean it over and turn it. Things are where I want them to be on that boat. It's really quiet in the water and smooth. I am ready to go spend some time in the Kraken, even though it may not always be in the ocean.
Also, the Big Rig. I spent a good amount of time in the Big Rig. If you wanted to stand up,
I actually
love that kayak.
I caught a tarpon standing up in that one.
Such an
I love that
stable
kayak,
platform.
The
Big rig. I mean, what a fun platform to fish off of. I mean, I watched Jim fighting this tarpon standing up. That's something I didn't do. But it's Big Rig's a great boat for, if you aren't super comfortable in a kayak, or if you've got a body of water where you really need to fish it standing up. If you like to carry a lot of gear, if you're a bigger guy, I mean, there's 100 reasons that's a great boat.
You can see all of Jackson Kayak's great kayaks at your local Jackson Kayak dealer.
I'm just going to grab old tail. Oh, there. You didn't need any reviving.
After one day on the water, Omar shows us why Puerto Rico is one of the top places in the world to fish for tarpon in a kayak.
That is a great shot.
The hits just keep on coming.
What a great fish to
The
catch,
Kayak
man.
Fishing Show is brought to you in part by Hook One. Everything you need to get out
that was a Kelsey shot. He was in charge of all the slow-mo stuff. This is another commercial break.
Shoe.
There you go.
Welcome back. Today we're fishing with Luther Cyphers from Yakattack.
Not seeing a whole lot of comments at the moment, so
I'm excited.
we'll just keep it rolling.
Or as my old friend from Japan, Yoshi, would say, I am exciting.
Actually, I'm going to pause it for 1 second because I'm going to tell a story. Now, Joe, again, our guest, and Luther, our guests, are going to be my guest while we air part 2 of this next week. But Joe has been in the kayaking world forever. I mean, he is in the kayaking world, not kayak fishing, but just in kayaking, whitewater, all that. He's been around a long time, and he's very, very well known. So I was quite surprised on, I don't know if it was day 1 or day 2. He decided he was going to try and stand up in the kayak and promptly fell in the water. He had a yard sail, stuff floating everywhere. And of course, this is like a guy who spent his life in a kayak. So we abused him unmercifully. But what we discovered was Joe is kind of an uncoordinated person. I mean, he was dropping stuff all the time. It was his birthday while we were down there. You guys made him a birthday cake, which he dropped. Man, we had a lot of laughs on this trip. And of course, after the first trip that was so stressful because we were working so hard to try to get fish, and this one we just kept catching fish, and it sure makes it a lot easier and a lot more fun. Catching is a lot more fun than fishing, it turns out.
A few years ago, Luther put his mind to creating accessories specifically for his favorite sport. The result was Yakattack, a company with not only a quality creative product, it's also stuck to Luther's goals of creating it all in the USA.
Luther is, of course, the owner of Yakattack fishing gear, kayak fishing accessories. He is one of the sponsors of our show. But you know what? We wouldn't bring him back just because he's a sponsor. We bring him back because he is a great guy, a fun guy to fish with.
We're all kind of a tight-knit family. And then with the community, we're tight-knit family. So, I mean, our philosophy is pretty simple. We try to build, good stuff. We try to listen to our customers. But more importantly, we try to, just do things the way that we think they ought to be done and kind of let the chips fall where they may. And it's been really cool.
He treats everybody like they're part of the family, and he comes across that way when you're with him. It's just a really, really down-to-earth, good guy.
Joe Pullian is one of the top brass at Jackson Kayak. Joe is one of the old guard paddlers and has been involved in growing the sport for most of his life. Although not a kayak angler, Jim is slowly turning him into one.
This guy is a legend in the kayaking world. He started Dagger kayaks forever ago. If you know whitewater kayaking, you know who Joe is. But you would never know that just meeting him. Just such a down-to-earth, cool guy.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I started off kayaking partly from an interest in fishing. I was a teenager. I grew up near the Savannah River on the Georgia-South Carolina border, and I loved to fish and swim and play in the Savannah River. And I got a canoe when I was 14 years old, and when I was 17, I started building kayaks. So that was some 41, 42 years ago. And so I've been building kayaks a long time. And I got away from fishing as I got more and more interested in whitewater. But now, as the market is changing and as my interests are changing and my age is changing, coming back into fishing, making this full circle back to fishing is pretty exciting. I don't have a lot of experience kayak fishing, and I've done a little bit, but certainly never done anything like this.
This week in Puerto Rico, we were kind of in a transitionary period where there were small fish and big fish moving in. Started off the week actually targeting some of the smaller fish that were around, kind of get a handle on things. For that fishery, it was really nice to have my longer rod with a nice soft tip. It made it much easier to cast out the smaller baits we were using, but also kept us from pulling the hook on some of these fish when they would hit. That softer tip when the fish would jump was much more forgiving. So I was using this 8.5-foot rod, really nice soft tip, but if you hooked into a bigger fish, it still had the backbone to take care of it. Using a bait caster here, loaded with 30 pounds.
That rod, if you remember, like I said, I know you really liked that rod, Omar.
Love it.
It had very much the feel of a fly rod.
Yes, the length was and the tip. I mean, you can cast really, really far out with that rod.
Yeah.
I
So
still have the backbone.
just because we've paused here for a second, and I was thinking about it, I have gotten more into fly fishing over the last few years, and we primarily bait fished on this. So I did throw some lures. I did have a tarpon actually try to eat my planer board while I was trolling. But you do a lot of fly fishing for the tarpon there. Is it a sight fishing thing, or is it a good fly fishing or fishery?
Okay, for fly fishing over here, normally, like for example, that scenario that you tangle with on the frenzies. I mean, that's an easy one. That's just a no-brainer there. Klauser Mino, woolhead, mullet head patterns will do it on dark colors. That will be either black or brown, dark brown. Klauser Mino as well, white and brown. That will do it as well. But I wouldn't say that it's sight fishing per se because we're not in clear water. But at the same time, you can see the fish on the surface. You spot these big schools of tarpon, so you're actually able to not aim an individual, but aim at the school of fish. And generally, that's a shot there. You don't need a lot of accuracy here. You're gonna need more distance.
Just cover water.
Yes, you want to cover ground and definitely have a fly that can push water. Wrestler works very good too.
Roderick, who was asking about the kayak rental, had another question. He says, I come to San Jose once a month for work, and I'll be looking you up when it opens up for travel again. Any other type of fish in the lagoons, snapper, etc.?
We have, and in the summer, we have mangrove snapper. And then at night, I normally target the big snook. But those have to be like a new moon or full moon. I'm very picky with the dates. I don't go fishing. I go catching on that term. So normally it's basically, I will say 3 to 4 days on the new moon and another 3 to 4 days on the full moon. And that will happen April, May, June, July, and August. So there's not really a lot of days that you're going to go and be more on the catching side than on the fishing side. So, but definitely. And then you're going to get mangrove snapper as well.
Awesome. Christopher has a question as well. He says, when I'm in Puerto Rico, I'm on the West Coast. So where are the good spots to go kayak fishing?
On the West Coast, there is a gentleman called Pochi Rosario. He's a guy down in the southwest part of the island. That's the gentleman to contact too on the West Coast. Anything that have to do with fishing, he's a very active gentleman on paddle boarding and as well as on kayaking. So he's very, very experienced on it.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Like I said, I mean, we have now gone. I mean, like I said, we had the first trip that was tough. We had this trip, which was amazing. And then we did another trip where we went to a totally different location and also had amazing fishing. At least I did. James Macbeth was with me on that one. He did everything he could possibly do to lose every single fish he had.
But he caught us dinner. He caught that big mangrove snapper. That was you.
That's right.
Who caught that big mangrove snapper?
I think I did. Okay. Gene Wilson, thanks for watching as always. All right, well, let's get back to rolling this episode. I said that was kind of a quick pause there and turned into more questions, but let's keep it going.
Seagar cans and braid, and then a top shot of 20-pound Seagar fluorocarbon. That's what I was using targeting the smaller tarpon here in Puerto Rico. Check it out.
When we return, Luther hauls in the first big catch of the trip. The Kayak Fishing Show is brought to you in part by InReach Explorer, the only truly global satellite communicator with built-in navigation, including waypoint. Torqeedo, makers of the lightweight 403 kayak motor.
We are landing some very large fish off our kayaks these days. You know, we're catching marlin, we're catching tarpon, we're catching tuna. All these fish have different indicators of when they're ready to be landed. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we're seeing this week with these tarpon. The tarpon you can get them really close to the boat fairly soon sometimes, but that doesn't mean they're ready. They still have a very strong tail beat. You try to reach in and grab the fish at that point, you're going to run into problems. So you want to make sure you get those indicators that it's time to land them. Again, just be aware that if you try to get them too close, they may go shooting off. So don't go bringing their head straight into the kayak. Generally speaking, when the fish is ready to go, you're going to see it kind of roll up on its side. You're going to see its belly. That's going to be your first sign that, okay, it's getting pretty close. One of the easiest ways that we find to get that, because everybody wants to get the hero shot, right? You want to get that shot of the fish up near your kayak or up on your kayak. And with the big fish, a lot of times it's not really practical to actually bring them up on the boat. but you still want to see the length of its body. Once you have the fish's mouth in your hand, or you're holding that nice heavy leader, you can pull the head towards you, slide your foot up underneath the fish and kind of hook it and lift it. You can show the entire length of the fish. Your buddy can get that really good picture, and you never actually had to drag that fish completely out of the water. Of course, you only want to use this technique in areas that are known to not be real sharky.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico, we know from experience and talking to the guides that this is not a sharky area, so it's a completely safe way to do it. Just hook your toes under the fish, lift it up, get that shot, get a good clean release, then get his head back in the water, spend your time reviving them. If you get a hold of their tail, just work it back and forth. We want to take good care of these fish. It's an awesome resource, and we want to come back and catch them again. And that's this week's kayak fishing tip. Well, we got a beautiful morning.
What noise am I hearing there? For those of you that have not caught tarpon or have not caught tarpon from a kayak, I say this every time I have the chance to go tarpon fishing. If we had tarpon here where I live, I would fish for tarpon every day. I know that they're not a food fish, anything like that, but they are from every size. They are so much fun to catch. I mean, the acrobatics, the power, the hits, everything about them is so cool. Omar?
Yes, sir.
My wife says hello.
Hi, Eileen. How are you?
So let's keep the show rolling.
We've seen some big tarpon already rolling around. We're going to go see if we can find some.
It's day 3. The guys get up early anticipating another incredible day in Puerto Rico. And so are all the participants of the PPA tournament that arrived last night.
Yes, hello. I'm Israel Pierre, a non-profit organization based in Puerto Rico. We are at the beautiful Tarpon Nest Lodge in Loíza, Puerto Rico. And we are here filming our first annual Tarpon inshore tournament. It is good because there is a growing number of people that doesn't have maybe the money to buy a boat. And we have ideal conditions. We have shallow waters. We have a lot of good spot for fishing that maybe in boat you can go there, but in kayak it's ideal for that. Since the mega cleanup, the waters have been we have been seeing some changes. In
so
more
many
than
iguanas
6
there.
months ago, the water has been
That
clean
changed after the hurricane.
Oh, really?
They are connecting the houses to the sewage system. So we have been seeing some improvement here. So we have a lot of work to do. It's not over. But as we create more awareness, we hope that we have a better ecosystem and we still have those big tarpons coming here to spawn and we can enjoy them.
I'm doing right now, I'm just trying to connect a butt section, fluorocarbon to a butt section. This is 60-pound fluoro that we're using here at Seaguard. We're putting a little heavier leader now because we're going for a little bigger fish. We're spotting some fish right on a structure. It's a kind of an oyster bark.
Before I left, I reached out to my buddy Ty Roth from Hooks by Ty. He makes these kind of hooks in different fish, and he had made me one that was a tarpon. And on short notice, he made a few more and brought one down for Jim, one down for Joe, and one down for Omar. And
Dang, that's good fish.
I think we're all pretty convinced the Tarpon Mojo was the stuff this week.
The Tarpon Mojo.
I hadn't seen Luther. We're just trolling around this big bay, and I wasn't really sure where he was. I hadn't seen him in a while, so I just started scanning the horizon because I'd like, where's Luther? And right when I caught a view of him, fish exploded right behind him. So I got to see the bite, the pickup. It was awesome.
Got a head full of ideas, gonna make some deals with some idiots for people with no brains.
and that killed his back.
Yeah.
I'm sympathetic and not lying, but I can't let a little hate crime ruin my night. One of these God-loving little young men.
But this fish still got plenty of energy right now, so just getting the final little kicks out of him where we can land him safely.
Don't you worry about me. I'm alright.
Oh! Sorry, man. I had my hand in his mouth and it pulled out. Yeah, it just got me in the finger, but well, that's the best thing for the fish, right?
That was a good fish. That's all right. He
Here
gets
in Puerto
redemption
Rico,
later on.
We've been fishing in some pretty large areas, covering every spot in large bays, and
More
kayakers
sponsor
heading in every
stuff.
direction. To stay in contact with each other, to know if fish are rolling, to stay in contact with the camera boat and the safety guys, it's really important to have good electronics. That's why for the past probably 10 years, I've been using Standard Horizon VHF waterproof and floating radios. These things are great. I like mine with the handheld mic, so I can just keep the radio in my pocket and the mic is up on my shoulder and makes it really easy to communicate with all the other guys. Check out all of Standard Horizon's great products at your local marine dealer. Well, that wraps up our first week here in Puerto Rico fishing with Omar Orraca of Caribbean Outfitters. We've had a great time chasing some of these smaller tarpon. Join us next week where we're going after the big girls.
All right. Stop sharing that. Get so many buttons I need to hit here. So I can close that. All right. We had, I have no idea how to say that name, but hello. Thank you for watching on Kayak Fishing Tales. Dave said, nice iguana. Now you said, because I mentioned that iguana, you said there's not as many iguanas now after the big hurricane?
No, after the hurricane, not as many as before. I mean, you can see a difference. I mean, it's not huge, but you definitely can see a big difference on the numbers of iguana.
But that's a good thing, really, right? Because they're not native.
And it won't take long before they will reproduce back to the numbers they were before. I mean, these things just put massive amount of eggs, and they have no natural predators, and et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Yeah. So they're not native. I mean, they are very, very cool to see when you're there. I mean, you know, you see them swimming, you see them up in the trees, but they aren't native, and they do kind of hurt the mangroves, right?
Yes. And now, let me tell you, there's big scars after the hurricane on the mangrove area, on the shorelines. There are many shorelines that have big scars. You know, mangrove got just dry. I mean, a few dozen yards into the bush. You know, so I mean, it's coming back up. You can see a lot of the green and the newborns coming up. You know, you see the area a lot greener in a lot of places. There's no doubt about that. But again, everything is perfect when it comes to nature. I mean, a lot of these structures have just create good spots for snook and stuff like that. So I mean, it just makes the area a little bit more interesting. Sometimes your same area can go through changes and make it different, and you can start targeting different species of fish on different spots that you were not doing it before. And sometimes that opens your horizons on guiding and trying to get the best out of the area.
We got a hello from Pam Worth. How are you, Pam? Haven't seen you in a very long time. She says the hooks by Ty are beautiful. Yeah, like I said, I've got mine here. I just threw it back on my desk. The one that Luther brought for us on that trip. I have this hanging on the wall in my office because I'm always wearing my turtle. But and our buddy Chuck is saying hi. How you doing, Chuck? Thanks for joining us. I saw you watching Jameson's show earlier today. So, Omar, I wanted to talk a little bit because we do still have a little bit of time here before we get going. I mean, I was planning on coming back to Puerto Rico this year. We were going to fish with you for a little bit and then fish with some other guys as well. I don't know how you guys are doing it right now. I mean, the hurricane was so bad. And I mean, it knocked everybody for a loop. And then seemed like things started to come back. And then all the freaking earthquakes. I mean, earthquake
something
after earthquake.
something very different from us, because we are a very, very strong people here on the island. So when the hurricane went through, everything passed by, and people just go back and put hands on it and start to recovering. With the earthquakes, we never knew when this was going to actually stop. There was no forecast. It's very tough. You don't perfectly understand how it works. I mean, and it was not like the first earthquake just did a damage. It's just that after another, and you just keep damaging structures in the south part of the island. And I just wanted to make it clear that in the north part of the island, around San Juan Airport and main hotel area, it did not have any serious or damage at all. Everything just concentrated in the very southwest part of the island. So, I mean, and more south, than west. So, I mean, and now after this, then we have this lockdown, and the economy is totally shut down. I mean, it's pretty amazing how this just changed the game. It's a game changer for everybody. I mean, this is not only for Puerto Rico; it's just for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously this one's globally. But I mean, like I said, Puerto Rico, I mean, like I said, with that terrible, terrible hurricane, I mean, I know it affected you terribly, losing boats and everything else. And then the earthquake, like I said, I have a earthquake app on my phone. So if there's an earthquake somewhere, I get notified. And there were just earthquake after earthquake after earthquake. And now this, I said, I mean, it's got to just be horrible. And, hopefully, once this is all over, people will go back because, like I said, you guys were just getting back on your feet, and that things are starting to line up. That the tourism was going to start coming back, and you're going to be able to get fishing again, and then this. So, do you see light at the end of the tunnel, Omar? I mean, do you have
this
want to come fishing?
Well, honestly, I mean, I don't know how things will roll after this, because there's so many different business sectors that got affected that I don't really know if there will be a lot of flow for people to start, going fishing. Actually, I don't see ourselves like quite busy until next tourist season. So basically, we lost the season, and it's very important people understand that we make, probably 75% of our income from December to May. Literally, we make 75% plus of our income in that time. So the rest is kind of slow, and it's here and there, but it's not strong. It's not solid. And I'm not talking only about fishing. I'm talking about in tourist industry in general. So it's a big downfall now that we went through this right on the tourist season.
Right.
So we all, I mean, not talking about fishing services. I'm talking about basically all tourist services. And I think that even the people who depend on the cruise ship will be a lot more hurt. They will definitely going to be, because I don't think they're going to open anywhere soon. I think maybe the airport will open and this and that, but I don't think they will open soon. I
mean, I'm not a fan of cruise ships anyway, but I certainly wouldn't want to, with the way this is. And you always hear about people getting sick on cruise ships. I would have no desire to get on a cruise ship at all.
No, this is going to change a lot of things, Jim. I really think so.
Well, I hope that it comes back, and I sincerely hope that once travel starts opening up, that people will come and see you, because I mean, you're such a great guy and such an awesome guide. Like I said, that's the reason we went back the second time, because we had faith in you, and that's the reason we went back a third time, is because
Jim.
It's such a great guy. So if people do want to reach you, fishinginpuertorico.com is your website.
Yep. Fishinginpuertorico.com is my webpage, and then Caribbean Outfitters on Facebook. You can find me there. Omar Orraca on Facebook as well. 787-671-1469.
Well, that's awesome. And like I said, I highly encourage anybody who has a chance and wants an exceptional fishing experience, whether it's fishing off of his flats boat or whether it's fishing out of the kayaks that he has, that you do give Omar a shot and go out there and help Puerto Rico in general get back on their feet, because it is an amazing fishery, and there's so many different places to fish, that I've now experienced, and that's why we were actually scheduled to go back again this year. So that would have been our 4th trip. That's how much we like Puerto Rico. So I do highly encourage people to go back there. So Omar, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thank you very much, Jim.
All the luck in the world. Again, we'll be airing part 2 of this episode next Tuesday. So if you want to tune in and watch and make any comments and make fun of Joe and Luther, feel free.
Absolutely, Jim. I want to thank you very much for taking the time doing these little airings. I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people, getting entertained by this period of time where you're going there. You're doing a wonderful job, as well as your sponsor. So I really want to appreciate that. Thank you very much for, having me on the show today. So best of luck, Jim.
Thank you, man. All the best. So thanks everybody so much for joining us today. Again, please join us next Tuesday, where we will have Luther Cyphers and Joe Pullian on as our guests as we watch part 2 of our trip to Puerto Rico. Also, this Thursday for our throwback years, I have Ken Whiting, my producer, is going to be joining us, because we're going to be going to the Ottawa River where they try to kill me. This is the episode where I almost drowned on the Ottawa River. So, but that hasn't stopped me from going back to Canada, because I love going fishing in Canada. So we will have Ken on and let him explain how he tried to kill me. So thank you all so much for joining me here today. Hope you join us again next time. If you are getting out on the water, please remember, always wear your PFD and keep your paddle right side up. You take care.
I'm going fishing.